Good morning, peeps. Getting myself live, I think. All right, we are live. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. How's everybody doing today? Just seeing if anybody's watching so far. Tina, good morning, Tina Osborne. Gonna say hello to anybody that I see hopping on here. It is cold in Florida right now. If you are living in Florida, and I know all you people that aren't in Florida are like, oh, well, you guys just shut up. You don't even know what cold is. It was cold this morning. 25 degrees. Oh, I think it was 27 degrees, but it said felt like 24. It was not a fun morning to decide to start doing my lifting in the morning, but we got her done. We got her done. All right. I'm going to hop into today's topic because it's been on my heart for quite a while now. And if you guys do have any questions about what I'm talking about or anything that I start talking about does resonate with you, please feel free to pop some comments up in the chat, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, or you are watching the replay. I actually need to get better about watching some of the replay. Good morning, Heather. Because I think that today's topic is such a pivotal place for a lot of women to get to in their journey. If you are a female, good morning, Ria. If you are a female and you have been kind of on this train of, I'm living the fit life, but maybe the nutrition is where I struggle. And the struggle bus is always, man, I got to lock in for fat loss, or I'm burned out from that and I'm just taking a break. Like maybe that's your constant life. Today's episode is really going to hit home for you. Or maybe you feel like you have to work so hard to maintain your body composition, or to maintain your health, and you're always so focused on nutrition. Today, I want to offer some clarity and some rest, and offering you an opportunity to change the way you're thinking about your journey so that you can learn how to escape the fat loss trap and learn how to live lean. And I'm going to start by just talking a little bit about what really sparked this for me. I do talk a lot about fat loss on my page. And in recent months, specifically, I have felt this pull to where I look at my Facebook page and I see fat loss. And I'm like, you know what? I know you want to lose body fat, but I also know, like me, you are burned out from chasing it. And the thought of fat loss already brings up this sense of, cringe factor, because you think about all of the things you have to do. And my goal when I'm talking about fat loss is always to offer a different perspective. And the clients that work with me do understand how differently I approach a fat loss journey. And I want to share that with you guys today, because I think if you can get out of this thought that it has to be this freaking lifelong pursuit of always in a fat loss phase or out of a fat loss phase, you learn how to truly live lean. And that is what I want to talk to you about today. And this is also about building your own personal blueprint, the rules, the lifestyle, the strategy that works for you, not what works for me or works for somebody else in the gym. It's how does this fit my life with my values, with the things that I have as priorities for me. Okay. So if anything today hits home for you and you have anything to add, please feel free to throw it up in the comments. You can reach out to me via DM if you don't want to put your personal business out there. I get that. Sometimes it's funny because sometimes I'll see this online. I'll be scrolling through and it'll be like, if you struggle with heavy bleeding around your period, DM or comment below, period. And I'm like, yo, who's going to want to be putting out their personal freaking period bullshit on somebody else's feed, right? Like it's very personal sometimes. So if you don't feel comfortable speaking up in the chat here, just shoot me a DM. That's a private conversation. By the way, I am the only person that runs my DM. There is no other people in there. So you can feel safe that you're going to be talking to me. So if you don't hear back from me right away, that's why. All right, but let's roll into today's episode. And I'm going to go back to the beginning of my show notes because I want to talk a little bit about it. And as I already kind of mentioned, I'm just really tired of watching so many women living their lives constantly with this obsession over chasing fat loss and never learning how to just live lean. And most of the women that are listening right now are not beginners. You might be a beginner, but for the most part, you're showing up in the gym, you're training, you're already eating well, you're probably already tracking your food, you're doing all of the things, and somehow you still feel stuck. All right. This is not for me to tell you that you need to stop caring about your body. In fact, you should care about your body. If you're listening to this, it means you care about your body, but you also care about your brain and you care about your mental health. And here's the goal is I want to get you to stop chasing fat loss, which is keeping you stuck. It's keeping you trapped. And instead look like what it looks like to build a lifestyle that allows you to live lean. And I think the biggest thing to start with is coffee hitting home today because it's freaking cold out. Okay. Is that for a lot of women, fat loss or chasing body composition goals has become ingrained in their identity. It's almost like a piece of them, whether it's they are living the fit life. So I will be honest, I think I fall into this category and I'm trying to reconnect with myself because I have a lot of expectations on this is how I live and this is how people see me. And it's become part of my identity. And for you, maybe you feel the same way. Maybe you feel like, in some way, like your body composition is what makes you worth something. And chasing fat loss is somehow in your life where you're like, things are good. This is when things are really good. When I'm chasing fat loss and I'm in a deficit and I'm freaking able to practice willpower, I'm in my zone. Like that is a red flag in your life. That is a red flag in your life. I'm going to say it louder for the women in the back. If your sole purpose or your sole confidence comes from, how you look in the mirror and chasing that, that is why you're stuck, because that fizzles out when you recognize that nobody else in your life gives a shit. You reach the goal and nobody else changes. Nobody else looks at you differently. What changes is how you show up in your life. And that's why your life cannot revolve around your body composition. You've got to have other things. It has to improve the way you show up in life. All right. So let's talk about reframing the goal. Now, as I mentioned, I do know that majority of people that come to me, they have fat loss goals. I am very aware of that. In fact, it is also what gives me pleasure, but not because I'm watching them shrink, because I'm watching them grow. I'm watching them no longer be a victim to what everybody else in the room is doing and feeling that they have to do what everybody else in the room is doing. I'm watching them become more empowered with their food decisions. I'm watching them stop living on poverty calories. I'm watching them build more confidence. In fact, I got a message yesterday from one of my clients because she was wanted to share the link to my Jumpstart with a couple of her friends. And I was just like, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. That means that you're happy. Like if I have a client that's sharing, that means that she's a happy client. And that makes me happy for her. And she goes, absolutely. You have 100% changed my life. And that was like literally brought tears to my eyes because that's what I want. And do you think that the goal of fat loss is what's making that? No, it's the confidence that she doesn't have to live a certain way. She was going down all of these rabbit holes with functional medicine doctors and gut protocols and restrictive eating. And now I've got her focusing on way less and getting way faster results. Okay, so let's reframe the goal. All right, there's a difference between fat loss and living lean. Fat loss is a temporary phase. It should be an intentional phase and it should be strategic. Okay, so we don't want to just, like I'm dialing in for nutrition because I'm trying to lose weight. Like, no, you need to have a strategy. We are going to be going into a fat loss phase, and here's what we're focusing on right now. You've got to work on being consistent. And that means sometimes in that phase, life is going to bring you opportunities where maybe you don't want to be in a fat loss phase. And you're going to have to say, nope, this is what I'm doing. I'm getting out of the grind of constantly being in and out of fat loss. And I'm practicing right now. I'm locked in for fat loss so that I can get back to living my life. Okay, this is where there is a little bit more effort. And think of it like this. When you show up at the gym, right? You're leaving other things behind for that hour. You're getting your job done and you're leaving at home. If you sit there and you're like half-assing it in the gym, you're not going to stay focused. Your 60-minute gym session takes you 2 hours because you've been scrolling through social media and answering emails and all that stuff, right? Make it a strategic phase in your life. It should not be a lifestyle. And this is where a lot of women are. It's constantly Monday through Friday, they are on a diet. On the weekends, they're off the diet. They're on a diet for the first month of the year, and then they're off a diet. It becomes ingrained in your patterns now to be constantly underfed. You're always partially in, but never all in on fat loss. And it's almost become just like your default way of eating. You're just eating this way now because it feels natural to undereat. And this is where you have to recognize, if you are always trying to lose fat, your body never gets a chance to feel safe. Your central nervous system regulates everything. And if you're constantly underfeeding it, your body's going to give you signals that, hey, there's not enough food available. You're going to notice things that don't feel as good. Stress is higher. Food noise is louder. Energy is low. You don't want to work out as much. Your workouts suck. Like, these are all signs that your body is trying to fight what you are doing. Okay. Now, when we're focusing on living lean, right, we're looking at consistency. Fat loss, the temporary phase, all we should be doing is manipulating calorie intake, right? That's all we should be doing, is maybe dropping calories a little bit. Everything else should be the same. When you're focusing on living lean, it's about consistency, repetition, similar meals, autonomy. Things feel natural in your life. Think about why you have a job that you've been at for the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. That's just become a natural part of your day. Your nutrition needs to be the exact same way. You need to have confidence in your food decisions and not the ones that are just underfeeding you. Trusting yourself outside of being in a calorie deficit, because life isn't about living in a calorie deficit. You need to get comfortable feeding your body enough food. Let's talk about some of the principles of living lean. And I want you guys to really lean in, no pun intended, to this section of this, because this is where a lot of women go wrong. All right. It's either I'm locked in for fat loss, I'm eating out of Tupperwares, I'm eating by numbers, or that's too much, it's too restrictive, I need a break, right? Living lean should not be obsessive. It should be autonomy. That's really what it should be. In fact, like I mentioned, my lifestyle is very automated. I don't have to think a lot about it. If I want to change, I have to make intentional changes. I have to be intentional about that. I am pretty happy with the way I eat, the way I train, the way I live. I feel good for the most part when I'm not putting a lot of external stressors on myself for goals. I have specific goals. In order for me to achieve those goals, I am going to have to make some changes to my lifestyle. That can feel uncomfortable. For a lot of you guys, that's what fat loss is. And that's kind of where I'm at in a different place in my life. But the habits are still the same. And here are the basic principles of living lean. First and foremost, self-monitoring. You have got to stop avoiding the scale and fearing it. You have got to stop chasing the scale, for one, but you got to stop avoiding it. You have got to stop avoiding photos. You have got to stop avoiding looking at like how much you're eating throughout the day. You have got to start realizing that self-monitoring is important to live lean. In fact, there is statistics that have shown and studies that have shown that the people that lose weight and keep it off long term do monitor their weight regularly. All right. So, but a lot of you guys monitor your weight in a fat loss phase. If it ain't moving quick enough, you get frustrated, or you avoid it when you're not focusing on fat loss because you're afraid of seeing the damage. Okay. We have to understand that that is literally just a measuring tool for you to see, okay, wow, like what's going on with my weight? Learning how to read it. Okay, we got to stop doing that. Self-monitoring your food, whether you are keeping track of your food in an app, whether you keep track of your food naturally because you eat pretty much the same thing every day and you have a pretty good system with that, whether you're using some kind of a meal planner template. You've got to be able to have autonomy in your day-to-day nutrition as a way to live lean, and knowing that it's okay to be flexible with that, but knowing the more you vary off of your flexibility, that's going to come down to what's going to change, what's going on with your body composition. All right. You also have to have some non-negotiables that are in place for you. And this is where you have to look at your life and build non-negotiables that fit your life with where you're at in your life. I don't have kids. However, I do run a full-time business that keeps me very, very busy. And so I don't have a lot of extra time. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about meal prep. I don't have a lot. In fact, I still do have competitive goals. I don't have the time to spend on an hour of mobility and activation before my workout. I got to get in and got to get it out. Like, I know that that would be optimal, but I don't have time for that. Okay. So you have to know what you have time for. And these are some non-negotiable daily actions that people that live lean live by. All right. Number one is sleep. And now I'm not saying that I can control how much sleep you can get, but you need to protect whatever sleep hours you have the best of your ability, and knowing that when things disrupt that, you have to find smart ways to be able to make up for it, right? So kids, perfect example. You can't control your kid coming into your room at 12 o'clock at night, waking you up, and you're up for 2 hours because he's crying, right? So maybe the next day you're trying to get to bed a little bit earlier, all right? I'm going to go into, if you have a husband, this is where you ladies have to stop wearing the hat of like all the hats in the house and maybe asking for some help. Sometimes you're not going to get it, but sometimes you might be surprised that you do get it. Okay. But finding ways to give yourself a little bit of relaxation. Is there something you can pull back on the next day to fit in a little bit of sleep? Maybe that is where you're like, you know what? I'm not hitting the gym first thing in the morning because I need to sleep instead. All right. Maybe you're shifting your rest day that week, but sleep needs to be a priority. Okay. Stress management. Again, I can't control the stressors in your life. We all have stressors, but we can change how we react to that. And this is something that I am leaning into in 2026. And I've already been trying to really shift in my own life because I know that it has been holding me back from being able to enjoy my life and what I do fully. I put a lot of external pressure on myself. I have a lot of tabs open in my brain, and it can become a constant hamster wheel of trying to keep up, and I can never keep up. And I am really embracing the power of slowing down a little bit to work on managing stress better, to keep my central nervous system more regulated. But people that live lean, they do have stress management techniques. This isn't about stopping and journaling and meditation. Those things might help you, but it's truly about being less reactive to things in life and realizing that every single thing is not an emergency, which is very hard for all of us. I already mentioned in self-monitoring that obviously having a way to monitor food, but people that live lean stick to structured and planned meals. They are not grabbing random things throughout the day. They are very okay with being like, hey, I don't need instant gratification right now. Like, it's an instant gratification when you feel the sense of hunger and you're like, I'm just going to eat something real quick. That's instant gratification. Most people that live lean don't do that. They have structure to their meals and they plan them. Now, if they're getting hungry and it's before mealtime, they might intentionally eat their snack a little bit early, but they're not just going to like say, oh, well, snack's not till 11, so let me grab another snack now. They're going to be like, no, I'm just going to push my meals up a little bit and have something a little bit earlier, because that is going to help keep them on track. And the worst thing that happen is later on in the day, they have to add in something later in the day because they feel hungry later. Okay. Another non-negotiable is moving their body daily. I made a post yesterday is like, some people say they need the motivation to work out. The majority of people that live lean, they are not motivated to do life without their workout. Like, that is truly what they look forward to in life. It's like their time, right? It's I want to feel good in my training, whatever that looks like to you, whether it's going for a walk, that's your time with yourself, whether it's hitting the CrossFit gym, but daily movement is a part of it. In fact, even in their day, like right now, I have a desk-bound job outside of my training. I am not sitting right now because I know that sitting just tightens up my hips. It does not make me feel good. I am standing right now. And I will make it an intentional point to move around throughout the day when I'm working, because I know that helps me feel better. And in fact, it's a lot more effective than just going and getting a 60-minute walk once a day. Because if you walk for 60 minutes, your body likely just adapts and you move less throughout the day, because in your head, you're already reasoning, I did my walking already. Whereas if you intentionally get up and move throughout the day, that's going to be way more effective. All right. And they're already consistent with their workouts. So they're consistent with, training daily or weekly. They have a cadence to it. They know what they're doing. They're not just throwing random spaghetti at the wall and seeing if it's going to stick, right? They're actually sticking to a plan. They're following a program, and they're not doing random workouts. Obviously, there can strength training as well, all right? But those are the basic non-negotiables. I think that there is also some things that are very important to living lean that are missing from most of your journeys. Is one of them is eating enough. You are constantly under eating because you are afraid of eating too much. Well, let me ask you this. If that was truly the solution, is keeping yourself in this constant state of control and eating too little, why are you still stuck trying to lose weight, right? Why are we listening to this episode right now? Because you likely have been on the hamster wheel of fat loss and trying to chase fat loss and never getting fat loss, right? Because you're constantly under eating. The women that live lean, it's, can I eat a little bit more and maintain my weight? That's how they think. Can I eat a little bit more and maintain my weight? Because they know that building muscle requires energy. And if you allow yourself to have enough food, you'd be surprised at how much easier it is to build muscle and stay lean. If you're constantly being underfed, of course you're going to have food noise. Of course you're going to feel restricted. Of course you're going to feel like you're constantly trying to play macro Tetris because you're not working with enough calories. Okay. The other thing about women that live lean, they understand the importance of flexibility with structure, and they don't spiral. They are okay going out to eat on a random Friday and being like, you know what, I'm here for the social aspect. I don't need to indulge in appetizers, drinks, and dessert. I'm going to stick to my normal meals and enjoy it. However, they can also go to a party or a celebration and say, you know what, today's a night where I'm going to enjoy myself a little bit because I don't really have to care about it. I want to enjoy the food. I want Super Bowl Sunday, perfect example. They want to go out. They want to enjoy themselves a little bit. Maybe that's what you want to do. You can be flexible and not beat yourself up about it. That's what living lean looks like. It's getting right back to consistency the next day. And the big one, I think that this flexibility and structure comes into place is that women that live lean have independence in their food decisions. That is a huge mindset shift. It's no longer going with the flow. When you travel, you're not just waiting to get there and see what everybody else is eating. You're no longer worried about what your family's going to say. You're saying, no, this is what I need to do for me. I understand how hard that is because I have a family that can literally wait until dinner to eat. And that's not me. When I meet my family for dinner, I have already eaten breakfast, snack, lunch, post-workout, and now I'm going to dinner, okay? That means that my meals are independent to me. I don't have another 2,000 calories to spend at dinner time because I constantly fueled myself all morning. Whereas those people don't eat all day and then they're going to feed themselves this large meal and sit on their ass, right? Like that's not you. You have to have independence around your food decisions and know what works best for you. All right. This is not about control, like in a restrictive way. It's about having control in a way that gives you empowerment. It's about knowing what your body needs and actually being able to work with it and respond. And just that's really where the living lean piece is missing for you and what you truly need. Okay. So I'm not even going to get into the fat loss part of this because that is what I want to get away from today. I want you guys to know that fat loss should be very simple. Okay. It should be as simple as here's where I've been eating at maintenance. Here's how much I've been moving. Here's my training. My feedback is pretty good. I'm going to intentionally drop calories if my body weight is not moving to get weight to come down. I'm doing it in a way that supports recovery and hormones. I'm eating enough protein. I'm eating enough carbs and letting this be a temporary phase. And what most people struggle with is knowing when to stop, when to take breaks. And instead, they just live in this constant state of fat loss behaviors, right? I know this because I lived it for a long time. And in fact, I still catch myself having to be like, okay, like I don't need to worry about this. I am no longer trying to lose weight because at multiple times in my life, I had to try and lose weight, right? So here's why you're stuck. And this is what I want to focus on to help you guys get unstuck. All right. So number one reason you are stuck You are only locking in your nutrition when you are dieting. And now under eating has become your new norm. A lot of people are like, oh, you're metabolically adapted and this and that. No, you have just been chronically underfeeding yourself and this is now normal to you. It doesn't feel natural to eat enough. Number two, your meals feel safe, but they're not satisfying when you're dieting, okay? So, and I'm going to kind of go into in that fat loss phase, right? You are somebody who, when you lock in for fat loss, your meals look different than they do when you're not in fat loss. You have like these safety meals that are like protein, veggie, carb. And then when you're not eating, it's like, I don't have time for that. It's boring. Okay. You need to fade those two. They need to blend. It needs to be a gray area of what it looks like to be in a fat loss phase and maintenance. Your fat loss meals should not look very different than your maintenance meals. There should be some strategic changes to them to create a deficit, but they should look pretty much the same. And that goes back to the autonomy. All right. Number three is you're stuck. As you're living by numbers, you don't actually want to live by. All right. So again, going back into women go right into fat loss, you have no idea how much maintenance calories is for you, or you don't know what your maintenance calories are. You're using a calculator. You're going by what your body is reacting to based on the input you've been giving it. And you're tracking these numbers and focusing on these numbers because you think that that's what you have to be looking by without looking at what supports your life. This is a process. It is a process to figure out how much your body needs. And that's not something that a calculator is going to give you. It's for instance, with my clients, I'm constantly looking at the feedback that they're giving me. How are their workouts feeling? What are they craving? What do they tend to eat when they are going off the plan? That gives me the flags of like, okay, this person needs more of this stuff. Now it becomes a natural shift, not this forced like plan. It's you're trying to fit a circle into a triangle, right? Like not going to work for you. So the reality is, I think that women that live lean, and I know you are one of these women that want to live lean, you don't want freedom from structure. In fact, you likely thrive in structure. You want the freedom from restriction. And that's what people that live lean truly have. They aren't like just living with no rules. They have rules. They have structure. They just feel free from the rules that they've created. Those rules give them a sense of freedom and enjoyment and empowerment, not a place of like, I have to do this. Okay. So here's where we're going to shift into helping you guys build a plan that is calm, doable, sustainable to get you unstuck. All right. So this is not about doing more. This is not about resetting and shifting everything and starting all over from scratch. It's actually about doing the exact opposite. Smaller details. It's doing things very differently than you've been taught in the past. All right. So the first thing that we have to do to get unstuck is you have got to stop focusing on how fast the weight comes off. That is usually the first thing keeping people stuck. They are focused so much on how fast the weight is coming off that they get stressed by the scale and they're constantly trying to change the plan to figure out why things aren't moving faster rather than just sticking to the plan. In fact, in recent times, I have taken the scale away from some of my clients because I already know they're in a deficit based on previous weeks, and the constant game in their head was keeping them stuck. All right. So number one is to know the goal is fat loss, have the intent of fat loss, but to not focusing on how fast the weight comes off. Number two is we need to figure out your anchors. What are your balanced meals? What does your meal structure look like? Make sure that you're getting in enough nutrients, not just macros, if you're a macro counter out there, and making sure that your meals have flavor. Guys, I get it. The chicken, broccoli, potato, rice, it's simple, right? But if it doesn't have enough flavor, like you're not going to enjoy it, right? Because here's the deal. You go to Chipotle, the food tastes amazing, right? You make chicken, rice, and peppers at home, it don't taste the same. Why? You're lacking flavor. All right. So you need to make sure that your foods have flavor. All right. Next thing that we have to do to get you unstuck is there is going to be a learning curve for those of you guys that are, I call it like we're retraining your brain and your palate. I shouldn't say I call it, but that's truly what it is. Right now, kind of going like where we're starting from where you're at, your body gravitates naturally towards foods. And I'm going to be talking about when you're not in the fat loss phase. Like if you're somebody that I'm talking to here who you'll lock in for fat loss and then you go off the plan, you're eating whatever you want. It's knowing that we need to retrain your brain to look for structure and also retrain your palate to start craving different things. Over time, what satisfies you is going to change. That is a learned change. Think about it this way, okay? I think it's epigenetics. It truly is. It's environment, right? If I was raised and breakfast every morning was eggs with spinach and sweet potato, that was my breakfast every single morning as a kid from the time I was able to eat. What am I going to naturally want for breakfast? That kinds of food, right? If vice versa, breakfast was a donut, I'm going to naturally gravitate towards that donut. I know it's hard to believe if you've always been the person that had the donut that the other would feel natural, but it does. And I know that because I've lived it. I grew up eating a very processed diet, standard American diet. Hell, the best time of being able to drive was the fact that I could now go through the Burger King drive-through and get breakfast, right? Like that's like how I grew up. But I no longer crave any of those foods. I have to actually practice discipline in allowing myself to be flexible with things because I truly do have a hard time that I don't crave a lot of those foods. I gravitate towards my foods naturally. But that is something that is a learned thing. And it takes a lot longer than you think. I think people think it takes 21 days to break a habit or 21 days to change, 21-day detox. It doesn't take 21 days. It usually, I think the average is 63 days. But it actually, the longer, the better. That's why chasing a fast number on the scale is not going to help you. All right. Making sure another thing that we want to be looking at is how to get unstuck is just looking at your movement outside of the gym. Okay. This isn't about punishment, burning more calories. It's truly about supporting your nervous system, your metabolism. This is healthy habits. This is not, I'm, walking 30,000 steps a day, which, oh my God, there is some coaches out there that teach that. It's no, I'm getting intentional movement throughout the day. I'm not sitting all day. And then less rigidity, right? Like you've got to have structure, and obviously it's great when everything is in your control, but it's also more about consistency, and consistency is boring, but that's what works, right? It's not. And when I say this, it's like it's Saturday and you didn't plan any food and you're out and about. It's not, well, I'm just going to eat whatever I want. And you're stopping at Five Guys for lunch and you're getting a bag of Doritos at the gas station. And then you guys are going out for pizza for dinner. It's okay. Like I didn't make the best of decisions today. I'm going to be as consistent as I can. I'm going to, anchor my meals with protein, get some produce in and call it a day. Right. That's consistency. It's boring, but that's what works. All right. So hopefully this episode has helped you guys see a little bit of what might be missing from your plan, because I think that for a lot of you guys, it's really about, or I should say a lot of you ladies, it's always about like being in a fat loss phase or not. And with my ladies, they are intentionally in a fat loss phase, but throughout that fat loss phase, we are doing it in a way that looks at living lean, right? I start to ask them as we are getting closer to maintenance. In fact, I had a client yesterday and she had a girls' night and she's like, I had a girls' night and I stuck to mostly veggies and hummus. I didn't do the desserts. I stuck to mostly like the higher protein, snacks or whatnot. I said, okay, that's great. Like, what would you have done 6 months from now? Is that how you would have approached it? Or do you think you would have approached it differently? And there's no right or wrong, but I want to see what would change, because that's what we talk about with living lean. I said, because in my opinion, if it was a girls' night and like the last 14 days have been like routine, that might have been the one day this month where you're like, you know what? This is my little bit of a celebration. I'm going to enjoy myself a little bit, not stress about it. That's what living lean is. And this is exactly why I created the Jumpstart. And the Jumpstart is a program that I run usually 2 to 3 times a year. Last year, I only ran it twice. I will probably run it 3 times this year because I do tend to find that I get to work with some really amazing people. But this is not to do this quick, like 21-day weight loss plan. It's not to put you on another diet. It's not to get you obsessed with macros. It's not to make things more complicated. It's actually to simplify things and help you build a strategy that you don't want as an escape from. Like my goal is that you guys make sure that you have a solid foundation. We are looking at how is the health of your metabolism, your hormones, how are your habits, how is your structure, what are your meals looking like? Assess your nutrition needs, not using an online calculator, but based on the feedback that your body is giving you. Learning how to listen to the body cues or listening to the cues that your body is giving you without spiraling. I get this a lot around ovulation and menstruation with my female clients. It's like the cravings are so loud. I don't know what to do. Okay, well, let's stop fighting them. Let's start working with them. Let's increase calories a little bit. It's learning that. And that segues into why it's so important to have flexibility without losing consistency, not letting that feel like you failed, and just learning that that's part of the plan. And consistency is over time, not in 1 week. It's not a snapshot. It's the compounding efforts. And then obviously to give you guys accountability to identify what your sticking points are personally to help you work through them and making sure that you are sticking to the plan. All right. So this is not about another quick fat loss plan. It's not about, strict macros. I am going to teach you guys all about that stuff. It's truly about finding a way to eat that supports your training, your life, and your sanity. So if that is you, you are tired of chasing fat loss and you want to learn how to live lean instead, I want to invite you. This is your opportunity to learn how to stop playing the perfectionist game. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be ready. You just have to be wanting to change. If you want to change, this is for you. And I promise you, it will change the way you look at nutrition if you truly want to learn how to live lean. Okay. Obviously, I'm telling you all of this because if you're still here, likely what you're doing is not working for you. And I want to give you clarity on what might. So if that's you, you can either comment below or DM me Jumpstart. I will send you the link to join in. I also put it in the show notes if you're listening to the replay on YouTube or Facebook. You can obviously just fill out the form there. But I'm just going to pop over to the comments and see if I miss anybody. I love this. Myrtle says it doesn't feel natural to eat enough. She is so right. Good morning, Miss Holly. I'm just popping on here. Did anybody else, I see a lot of people here still on Instagram. Does anybody else have any questions about anything that I talked about today or anything that might have hit home for you as I close up shop? All right. Well, if you are in Florida, please stay warm. It is freaking cold. I'm going to hop off. And if anybody does want the link to my Jumpstart, just either comment below. Actually, don't comment below. Just send me a DM because last time I did this, it was hard for me to figure out who commented below after I signed off. If you want to join in on the Jumpstart, just DM me Jumpstart. Or if you go to the link in my Instagram bio, I do have a link for it there, but I know that some of you guys don't even know where that's at. So just DM me. I'll obviously get you signed up. Until next week, guys, have an amazing day. Bye.